before we start, and I'm just going to invite everyone to just pause for a moment and just be present, acknowledging and recognizing pure awareness. The experience of presence. And I love the teaching that Rupert has offered us, and that we acknowledge that in the beginning, the awareness is in the background, seemingly, of experience. And then it actually, as we practice this knowing of awareness, this knowing also of experience, it moves to the foreground and includes and pervades all experience. It becomes something that I can't really. It's a known experience, and it's quite different than anything I've ever experienced in life. It's a known experience of being, and it gets stronger and stronger in my experience. And also I feel for the ones like Anneka's shaking her head yes, and I know all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, wow, the invisible realm is right here present as what I am.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's like, woohoo! Yeah, it is a great experience, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, I'm just going to welcome everyone into the room. Welcome everyone. We have about 37 people that are here and ready to go, and the rest can just join us when they want to. I'm so happy to be with all of you, and I'll give you a quick sort of an update. I'm in Texas, near San Antonio, Texas. I'm at my oldest daughter's house, and my 5 grandchildren, 2 dogs and 3 cats. So if you hear barking in the middle, it's just happening. If a cat jumps up on the counter, it's happening. Although the cats they sort of stay away from me right now. And so I'm having a great time with my daughter and my grandkids. And I do not want to miss this connection with all of you. And I so appreciate you joining with us today. And I want to give a warm welcome to one of our beautiful co-hosts and beings that we absolutely love, Anneke, Broertjes. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm also really very happy to be here with you all, with you, Bill, with everyone. It's a beautiful opportunity to let the heart speak and just let it flow right through.
Yes.
It wants to express more and more too, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't in words, because it already is everything. So no problem.
Yes.
But it's still really beautiful. And
let's get into this chapter. This chapter is chapter 3. We have a total of 8, so we have 5 more chapters.
Yeah.
Skipping 1 week on the 27th of March. We won't have anything that week. I'll be at the retreat. And the last time you and I did that, I was in Garrison. And it just, you just can't depend on the internet there. And I'd rather have a solid internet.
It was a very interesting webinar.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah. So this is chapter 3, the overlooking of our essential nature.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to invite Anneke to start, and then I'll wait for you to stop and then fill in anything that might be wanted to be said.
Great.
Thank you.
And to go right into it and not waver, page 44, the last page of the chapter. And I'll mention the other pages. The last page says so importantly that in the second part, oh my God, let me see. Yeah. In reality, it is not the separate self that searches for happiness or returns to its natural, relaxed condition. It is the pull or memory of its natural state that calls the separate self back to its innate condition of fully relaxed, inherently peaceful awareness. And I wanted to start backwards, because then I go back to page 42 on the top. The forgetting of our true nature is the source of all psychological suffering, and conversely, the remembering of ourself, its remembrance of recognition of itself. It's the source of peace and happiness for which all people long. Why do I start with that? Because it's very easy to forget, especially in the beginning, but to forget or not yet know it out of our own experience that it's not the separate self owning the recognition. It's not a separate self or a mind that decides to return home. It is all the play and the display of the aware being itself. And Rupert offers a few examples which make it very clear, not particularly in this chapter, but he speaks of John Smith being an actor, and he plays King Lear. No matter if King Lear puts on his clothes and is right in the drama and blood and love and all that is going on in the play, King Lear can seemingly forget himself, totally being that being John Smith. But no matter how immersed he is in that play, no matter how deep the forgetting, it's still John Smith. It's still John Smith playing. And another example is, of course, his famous screen and the movie. This aware screen modulates itself into all kinds of movies. And it can be horror movies, beautiful romantic movies, or no movie at all. But the screen remains the screen and is untouched and is the very essence and substance of the movies. No screen, no movie. Another one, I thought it would be great to mention these examples.
Yes.
Not specifically of Rupert, although he sometimes speaks of it, but an ocean is water. And this water can rise as waves, small, tiny waves, storms, splatter, vapor forming rain clouds. It can freeze. And no matter what, it's still water. But like King Lear might think, oh, I'm King Lear and I've got to return home. And it could be a movie like that. You know, King Lear wants to return home. A friend says, but you are John Smith. You can remember, oh, I have got to return home. And oh, I'm a loser. I'm still not seeing it. And oh, yes, look at me, how far I am. And it's still the play. And
yes.
The play continuously made of John Smith acting as, or the screen arising as. And it's very tempting to forget that, because pure awareness, our true nature, modulates itself, arises as, manifests itself as apparent separate minds, separate selves, bodies, world. And the mind can only see life in duality. For instance, when you would read a book, the mind cannot read the whole book in 1 second or less than a second. It has to read one word after another. So time comes into existence. So mind, this mind that can only see, because it identifies as the body, you know, that's the first identification. I am the body and I am in a body. And I'm separate from the world and the other. So mind sees everything in a dualizing way. And in our last book, there was that beautiful sentence that it depends on the resistance of the dualizing mind if it returns easily to its natural state, yes or no. Yes. But it's not personal. It's not you with your mind, you are still not understanding, or wow, you are great, you are really ahead of everybody. It's not like that. And it discovering that more and more happens through moments of expansion, or it could be first understanding with our mind, a kind of a higher reasoning, but hey, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. But finally, the recognition of what we really are, and the recognition that what we really are can arise as everything and anything, that has to happen through the direct own experience. So you can think about it, and you can try to replicate a teacher, for instance. You can try everything and anything. I did it. I was there. It can't be stupid, because it is how life plays. But we all know this pull from within. We know somewhere, somehow, that deep down there is this sense of home. There is this sense of freedom, of love. And we do see that in experiences, and then we think the experience gave us peace or love or whatsoever, but it is what we are. It are words for what we really are. And of course, it starts with somebody saying, or you have a book or an expanded state or whatsoever, and you think, wait a minute. So it's first about, I'm aware that I'm aware. Oh my, so the attention is withdrawn from all the phenomena and from the content, and then it is possible to know, oh, I am aware, and I know that I'm aware. Or another way of saying is, I am, and I know that I am. And
like Popeye, I am, and I know that I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, of course, then in a natural way, we start to discover what the nature of this amness or awareness is. And then there's so many explorations. But first of all, it's the direct recognition, I'm aware, and I know that I'm aware. So it's awareness knowing itself. And awareness without being wouldn't exist, and being without awareness neither. So awareness and being is the same. So it's awareness, beingness. So it's one and the same. And that discovery, well, for me, everything exploded into joy. And then these residues of separateness arose. And what mind also does is it hijacks it. It thinks, oh, that was a beautiful state, recognizing as I was open and I was free, and I want to hold on to that.
Yes.
And you see these residues come back, and I have done something wrong. I have to work really hard. Well, that's okay, because it'll fail. But that's also how life plays this game of forgetting and remembering.
Yeah.
But all along, it's continuously awareness, being aware of being aware. So that's why I love these few lines to begin with, because sometimes it's a little bit hidden in the text, but that he says it's remembering of itself. It's.
Yeah.
And not look at me, I did that. Because when we personalize it from this feeling that I refers to a me in a body, then there is ownership, and then there's also praise and blame. You know, I praise you for being so far ahead of everybody, and I also blame myself that I have not got it yet. But it's all part of the uncovering, of the revealing. And he also says in the same chapter, it is himself, it's he that veils himself with himself. That's in a few pages before that. So those were the ones that I feel magic with.
Yes.
On page 40. So it is for this reason that the Sufi, one second, the Sufi mystic Baliani said, he veils himself with himself.
Yeah.
And that's what Rupert continuously brings forth, is that first there is the identification, then there is the recognition that can happen through a friend, a teacher, a book, an expanded state, nature, making love, whatsoever, that you realize, whoa, but I'm aware. And I'm aware of my body, and I'm aware of my thoughts, and I'm aware of the world and everything. And then the nature of that, like it's ever present. It's always here. We discussed that in the last book, walking alongside the river, walking backwards, turning around, and continuously here. No matter how far I walk, I'm still here. So those are interesting explorations. And then it's possible to explore, to not only see, but experience that being is all there is, or knowing. There's this two words for the same. And it's very beautiful when that happens. For me, it was very beautiful when that happens, seeing that there is no body, and seeing there's only being, and there is no limit. You know, when you go with your attention into the body, conventionally into the body, and from within, you start to swim around attention, and you check, can I feel where the body stops and space around it begins? And then you do that in the head and in the back and in your feet, and you will find no limit anywhere. So if there is no body, where could that me reside in? It all collapses.
Yes.
I'm
going to let the dogs out. They're barking at me to let them out. I'll be right back.
Sure. But that's I just keep on chatting because I'm so passionate about it. I hope it's okay. But those are little explorations that you discover. There is no body. There is nothing limited. And Rupert's yoga meditations are great for that. Transparent body, luminous world with all these CDs. And then you get to know more and more that there is no body to contain a me.
Yes.
And when there is no me and no body, then what is the world and what are thoughts? So I've also discovered that the more that becomes established, it's what you say, it comes to the foreground. It's never absent, actually. Being aware of being aware. And it gets nearly more solid than a rock. More solid than a rock at a certain moment, that it's undeniable that I am the presence of God. And it doesn't matter if I refer to I presence or this seeming body and this expression. It's all the presence of God.
Yes.
What a miracle.
Yes. You said two things that I really want to bring attention to. One is, and I love this because I learned this from Muji before I heard it from Rupert.
Yeah.
And it was the first paragraph you read that on the last page of this chapter, where Rupert talks about our desire becomes a pull.
Yeah.
He calls it a memory or a pull. And that's one of the things that I noticed when I met Muji, that he would call the spontaneity of movement a pull. It wasn't, and it was the mind. It was recognizing that the mind was not the source, but the being was pulling itself into its next moment of experience. Yeah. And I like the use of that. It's got a very proper kind of a understanding that goes with it, because it does recognize that the awareness that was in the background, that's now understood to be and recognized in the foreground, it's that pull is a palpable experience that is it's the solid rock that you just described. It's the solid rock.
Mhm.
It's so known that, and it's not solid, but it's known
Undeniably.
undeniably, like it's solid,
Yes.
it's stable.
Yeah.
And so I love the use of that word in language. And the other thing that you said was on page 42.
Mhm.
And actually, it's not on page 42, but you were talking about that second paragraph on page 42 when you used the term the mind hijacks
Yes.
the I, or the awareness. The mind comes in and hijacks
Yeah.
the
The revelations, as it
yes,
were.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So expand more on either one of those.
Well, mind can only know objects, can only know duality. It is because awareness pretends to be, I mean, it's not an entity, awareness, but pretends to be a mind that is separate and that is dualizing, as if it's separate already from itself. That's how it feels. You know, and mind is, of course, a word for thinking and perceiving. Well, thinking is the activity of using all these learned words and making stories up. Well, I always ask myself, what if nothing ever would have gotten a word or a name? Nothing. So you would look at the sky, you had no idea it's called sky. What would you see? What would you experience? I'm trying to imagine. First, I lean back as being aware of being aware, just being, and looking at the sky. I mean, it's all being. It's being, but we learn body, girl, Anneke. Yes, life plays as body, Anneke, girl, but without the words and without referring to learned memories. When we then explore the body, you find sensations, but they're made of being. It's just aliveness, beingness, dancing. And mind cannot understand that it is no thing, that it can't. Try to imagine nothing. Just try to imagine nothing. But no thing, nothing, dark, quiet, peaceful nothing is what we are in the depths of everything. It has no manifestation yet. It is silently present. And there is knowing, being, and that is a kind of a dark nothingness, but it already carries the light within. Mind cannot know that. Yeah, it knows dark and light, but not what I'm speaking of, that eyeless eye, that no thingness. But it has the potential to rise as apparently everything and anything and anyone. But when we look into that, it is back to 2.0 again, because it's all beingness arising as manifestation. So mind will never understand that. It is the ceasing of attending mind's world and the body, the names, the words. What I sometimes, when I say words, I always have to sort of laugh. Like when you say in English, you say I, we're speaking now about being aware of being aware. Most people think I is the body. When you say the sound I in Japanese, it means love. When you say I in Dutch, it means to stroke my skin. So the sound I means way different things. When a Chinese says something or I say it, maybe I try to say something in Chinese and I'm saying a very bad thing, because people have invented sounds for what we call things. But without these sounds, would they still be things? I'm talking abstract. I'm an artist. I love to contemplate in these ways. And if we would not know our name, and we wouldn't know this is a body, what is this? just sit and contemplate. Check. It's fun.
Yeah. Yes. We have a couple of comments I want to refer to. One is Hillary says she loves the King Lear metaphor, and it works for her better than Mary and Jane.
Yeah.
And also, Hillary said that grace is the pull, maybe could be called grace as the pull. And then MG has a good question here I want to reference. What about imagination, intuition, and precognition? Those are not exactly opposites or objects. Those are not exactly objects. So you want to answer that? Go ahead.
I know Rupert calls a thought also an objective experience. So anything objective experience can be invisible. Like an imagination.
Your thoughts and your sensations are, you imagine a sensation. You imagine, you imagine, you make an image. It's an image that you've made that becomes an object of experience.
But when you lean back, it depends. When you imagine into images, and then it feels more objective than when you lean back. First to being aware of being aware as this beingness. Intuition. Imagine there's a question and you think it out with your head invisibly in thoughts. It's still the dualistic mind. But when this intuition leans back and we ask, so to say, the question to beingness, we just lean back. So you don't ask and you don't, but just leaning back as beingness. And then way different answers may arise and so forth. You see, for instance, Francis Lucille and Rupert, when there's a question, they lean back. They look down with their eyes a little bit and they're checking, as it were. They are resting back as what they are. And answers arise that are meticulously precise. Also because it is their own lived experience, but they always make sure they lean back for a second. So intuition in that way, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think of it as coming from that understanding and coming from that known experience. I think of it as divine. Hillary mentioned it when she said the word grace. It's like divine grace is arising with whatever is necessary to know or to be known in that resting space of allowing. It's just like an informing. We're being informed with the intelligence of being.
Yeah, a gesture, a word, it happens naturally without the interference of mind. I would like to say something about grace, though, because for what we really are, being, it doesn't feel like grace. It's for the misunderstanding of what we really are, for the mind, for the person. It feels like grace because it's a relieving of this mind imposed or this imposed sense of separation. Because being, that God only knows himself, I don't think being needs grace. That sounds stupid, but it can.
I think it depends on your interpretation, what your definition of grace is. For me, grace can be divine flow that's revealing itself. Okay. So it really depends. It's not like it's not like you're being given something. It's that it's being the divine or the beingness of is being recognized as flow. For me, grace is not just.
I only knew the word grace as it's given, and then it's always the sense of being separate is given something.
Okay.
That's,
I have
that's
a
why
different,
I said it. Okay, great. Okay, great.
interpretation of it
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. And it says, MG has an interesting question, and the jhana
yeah.
states, what becomes of mind during such? I don't know the word jhana.
Jnana is through understanding, and bhakti is through devotion, and they both end at the very same if it's followed through, because through Rupert says jnana is the direct experience, also through higher reasoning and understanding, and that is what Rupert also displays. At a certain moment, you drop down in devotion.
So jhana is devotion?
Through understanding, and bhakti is through devotion. It's
Okay.
like when people
Okay.
surrender themselves totally to a guru, but then also they come to see that what they really are, what they are as an I. So everybody ends up, so to say, at knowing they are this I, aware being. And it can happen through devotion or through distinguishing and who am I questions, inquiry, and stuff like that.
Right. Thank you. And
And
William Price
also
called it subtle objects. And then Jenny made a statement here that all those precognition, intuition, etc., come from what Rupert calls the broader field of mind. What you intuit, etc., are objects.
Yeah. But I thought a little bit above that, Lin wonders, even without the name like book, sky, etc., the form persists. Well, what Rupert says, that this reality remains. I always thought I was going to see everything as transparencies, like really transparent trees and, but it's not like that. It remains trees, sky, mountains, but you know what it's made of, its essence.
Yes. You know your essence, and this is just rising.
Yes.
Without names, it's just happening.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful way without names to explore.
Yes.
Because we're tempted to think, but this is a body, and this is my hand, and this is a chair. But without names and just sensing into it and really, really feeling into it. So it's also a felt exploration and not just a thought about. Yes. And that helps. Helps.
Well, in my experience, the more I understand the way things sort of work is when I rest in awareness as the knowing of being. When I, as Jenny gave me a great tool last year in the book club, when I asked her how she wakes up in the morning, and she says, before she gets out of bed and puts her feet on the floor, she just recognizes she awareness is present and known, and that begins her day. And as that becomes a new default, then the experiences that happen as a body, as Bill or Anneke or Jenny, the experience that occurs no longer calls forth or has the reaction as it used to, because awareness is more pervading the experience, and it's not reactionary. It just is, and when the mind comes under that experience, and also I feel that the mind begins to trust that experience more and more. It seems to take over. It seems to be the new, and I feel that that's also what Rupert teaches, is that it's as a residual is less and less. The awareness comes into the foreground, and it's more of a constant experience.
Yes. And it will saturate and penetrate and define more your behavior, the way you relate. But it's not the other way around, which is also again a hijacking that mind says, so it looks like a certain stage. No, it's because otherwise you would have to continuously beautifully happy and serene no matter the circumstance, as if you never cry, as if there's never irritation. But it does penetrate. It love steps to the forefront too, and a kind of an openness, or maybe just a quiet peace.
Yes.
It's not limited to a state. It really isn't.
Yes.
Because I always thought it had to look a certain way, and
yes.
that is a pitfall. That really is.
Yes.
Because then it's violence again. That you push yourself to be a certain way, otherwise you're not spiritual.
Right. Yes. Yes. That can be, as you said, a pitfall. It can be the mind comes in very fast, very subtle, and says, "Oh, it looks like this."
Yes.
And it doesn't look like anything. It always just is.
No. Yeah, and maybe that's an idea to you had the question of Ruth.
Oh yeah, Ruth had a question.
Yeah. Is
Why
this
don't you give the question? Do you have the question?
I don't have it here.
Let me see if I can find it. Okay, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Ruth had a question that she wrote in, and we'll see what that question is.
Because it's sort of the, let me see.
Here it is.
Oh, you have it. Okay.
I have it right here. It says, "Hi, Bill. I had a question for Anneke concerning chronic physical pain. Rupert recommends that we stop being exclusively fascinated with the content of our experience, but ever since I had a bad fall on the ice a couple of weeks ago, I've had chronic pain that has been pretty hard to avoid becoming obsessed with. I was checked in by the paramedics at the time, but I was wondering how she tunes into being aware of being aware and to the perfect health of awareness in the context of this problem. Thanks."
Yeah, great. And I thought we'd address it now because we're speaking of mind wanting it to look a certain way.
Yes, thank you.
And pain, I've got chronic pain for nearly 20 years now, so daily. And I know that Rupert says when somebody asks a question about pain, he says, first, make sure you're comfortable. That's great, because I thought, oh, now I'm spiritual. Now I really have to be able to be beautifully with horrible pain. It didn't work. I couldn't. And when I'm throwing up of horrible pain, it's a very bad timing to start exploring because I'm throwing up. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that at those moments when pain is at its highest and you're really throwing up of pain, that you think you should be able to be beautifully peaceful with the pain. It didn't work for me. I tried. Not in those moments that I'm so sick of pain. So I also went to another teacher once, and he says, take painkillers. Oh, so that's allowed. I thought, is it allowed? You know, and I know from Byron Katie, she says, God is in pill too. So on the bottle, it says once a day. Well, once a day, no discussion. So, but there's more to it, of course. It's not only that. So when I was, and here is again the 3 stages. So the first stage is total identification with the body. Well, when there is a me in the body and there is physical pain or fear or anger or anything you can identify with, then this me in the body feels like being a victim of pain or a victim of fear or a victim of an unkind neighbor. Doesn't matter the subject. But then you start, the recognition opens up and you think, oh, I'm aware of the pain. I'm aware of the body. But still, when pain is horrific, I can tell you it hurts. It's not that you can use, which mind wants to do, use the understanding to say, okay, now I'm going to sit beautifully so it vanishes. Because that's what this sense of separateness wants. It wants it to go. Well, I can tell you pages full of alternative healing, regular healing, standing on my head and whatsoever. I've tried everything to get rid of pain, and I failed. Or not I failed, it failed. It was a huge disillusionment. So then pain became a teacher. And in what way? There was no other way to go. All the roads were cut off. Couldn't go there. That didn't help. That didn't work. And then I ran into somebody who told me about non-duality. And I discovered, oh, so I'm aware of my body. I'm aware of the thoughts. I'm aware of pain. And again, mind stepped in and he thought, okay, hijack awareness. Now I'm going to sit and meditate so it'll vanish. It'll go. So it still remained an attempt to get rid of pain, but now in a spiritual way. And there's nothing wrong to want to heal pain, because when we have a toothache or a broken leg, you just go to a dentist or the hospital. I mean, pain hurts. So it's not stupid to not want it to be there. But with me, it didn't go. So I had to have another relationship to it. And then this being aware of being aware became more, okay, I go on. This being aware of being aware became it stepped more to the foreground. And what I started doing was that when I took a painkiller, and I still do that in the middle of the night or early in the morning, I take a special painkiller and I just sit down. And I know that through the painkiller, it will subside. And that's an excellent moment to explore, to look into the body, to see that the body is not limited. The body is wide open and free, and pain and other sensations dance in this openness. And that's a huge relief, because then I'm no longer a me in a body that is a victim of pain. So the understanding opens up in a different way. And then it is also beautiful when pain is not so horrific, or when pain is temporary, or when pain is present, but you can deal with it. Then it's an excellent moment to explore and to be aware of being aware, because I know you told about that too with the Camino, and I have that experience too, when it's not overwhelmingly horrific and you don't have to throw up of pain, but it is, okay, it is painful, but still you rest as awareness. You rest in your being as what you are. Miraculously, that steps forward, and pain sort of like, sometimes it's not even present. But I know exactly when I can or when I cannot explore or rest, because sometimes when there is really intense pain, I had to have surgery and I was really curled up of pain. It was nearly screaming of pain. It's a stupid moment. It won't come up. You're not going to say, oh, unless it happens, because at that point I also had that sense that there was grace. I just dropped into a kind of a peace. I wasn't passed out, but it was, so that can happen too. So there is not one formula. I also want to say that. Sometimes it's about taking a painkiller, going to the doctor. Sometimes just abiding as I am is what is present here always, also during horrific pain now. But it doesn't mean that the pain doesn't hurt. We don't have to be a martyr to be beautifully suffering of pain. If it is horrific, take good care of it. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to your body. And that's what I also wanted to say, that once I discovered that there is no limitation, there is no limited body, just sensations, and that there is only being, weird enough, it opens up a kind of a kinder, gentle world. I'm taking better care of my body than I did before, when I thought I needed to just discard it, deny it, because I am a aware being, and I'm not the body, and I'm not the thoughts, and I'm not this, and I'm not that, that still has this sense of duality, of separation in it. So I thought, well, don't mind the body, don't mind the body. It did help me establish in and as that. But now I'm sweeter for my body, more accepting, also accepting the resistance to heavy pain. There is resistance in my body. It has 20 years of every day having to deal with it. It's not like, and I don't know, and it gets lighter. Now I know that I'm not the body. And it's just as if my body was a fist replicating, mimicking in my posture too, the separation. Because in my history as a child, there's many near deaths and suffocation whatsoever. So this is still the residues in my body and system of separateness and survival mechanisms. That can't be healed by force and denial. It should not be neglected anymore, but that only works if I'm established in and as that being, which is by nature kind and more accepting and allowing of more accepting, allowing and loving. That's not, again, something for the mind, like now I must allow the pain to be. For me, that's not like that. It is more like resting back as I am. And it naturally naturally embraces, flows through, penetrates, saturates, because any attempt of the mind is to get rid of it anyways, to fight it or whatsoever. But now I'm even more loving towards the fight. I get it. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole, I mean, it's so interesting in that this work requires that you don't work for it. And it actually, and if you have expectations, if you have intentions, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Expecting something to occur, expecting something to change, or doing a practice that you think is going to alter your experience of pain. You remain as the experience of awareness and let everything fall where it falls and welcome everything as it is.
Yeah, also resistance. That was for me freedom too.
Yes.
Don't resist resistance. Yeah, because pain is not a fun thing, but also there is some old fears as a survival mechanism in my system. When you have to claw for air many times, I don't want it. I'm dramatizing a little bit now. But when there's really intense experiences as a child of total desolation and near death, of course, there's residues of fear because you have to save the body. And the body seems like being a me. And that me body that is about survival, it's natural. I remember I was once in a retreat with Adyashanti, and there was a man beautifully stating, oh, I don't mind if I die now, and I'm totally open and free and whatsoever. And then Adyashanti said, well, get me a bucket of water. I'll put your head in it. We'll see if you want to live or not. So really, the body will struggle.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I will say this, that, the primary, I would say the primary experience that I've found to be helpful is whether it's in my peace being disturbed, whether it's pain or a sensation, and even having pleasure, in a pleasuring experience, you just remain as awareness and allow awareness to be a new default, and your life will be more peaceful. That just is the way it is. Yeah.
Because when I sort of forced upon me to have to allow, because Arthur says so rightly, allow, 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 allow.
Yes.
But when I rest back as what I am, that is allowance of all that arises from it.
Yes.
Everything, nothing excluded. Because then we discover that being is the substance and the essence of all of life.
Yes.
I thought for a while that I, as a mind, as a person, had to allow everything to be. It does help because, of course, there is in this personal realm, fighting does not really help, but sometimes we have to fight till we die, to fight like crazy to discover that. So nothing is out of place. Nothing is out of order. No, I know that that's what Rupert said in the other book, depending on the resistance of the dualizing mind. And he also had the example, like in the middle of a huge water, there's an ocean steamer or a little yacht, and they both turn off the engine. How many miles does the ocean steamer carry on in the yacht? So if has a lot been going on in your life with abuse and horror, war scenes and whatsoever, of course, these residues and allowing or not allowing, it depends on the story, the King Lear or the Hamlets or the Romeo and Juliet. It depends on what John Smith expresses as.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
There was one more question. We have about 4 or 5 minutes left. There was a question that Henrik wrote in, and he said, Rupert Spira is simply brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, we agree.
We agree. Totally.
If there is time today, could you expand a bit on we cannot direct our mind towards the experience of being aware. We can only direct our mind away from it on page 43.
Yeah. Mind can only know objective experience. So you could say I awareness rise as attention. Attention goes towards the objective experience. Mind can only know objective experience. It's already that a mind arises already seems to be a splitting up of I awareness. As soon as you play King Lear, there is the jacket and the role, and that's immediately the dualizing mind. Mind is dualizing. It cannot do any other. Mind cannot be directed to itself as awareness because it only knows objective experience. The mind is withdrawn, attention is withdrawn from the objective experience and then rests back as what we are. It cannot turn around, so to say. It cannot imagine that which is unknown.
It says at the top of the
back to the page now.
Yeah, it's at the top of page 43. It says knowing toward. It says
I see it.
However, just as a beam of light from a flashlight can be directed towards an object, but cannot be directed towards the bulb from which it emanates, so awareness in the form of attention or mind can direct the light of its knowing towards objective experience, but cannot direct itself towards itself.
No, and then it says, so more accurate to say that awareness must relax the focus of its attention. That's what I meant to say. Awareness arises as attention.
Yes.
Attention is made of awareness. And when that arises, and then also Rupert says attention is attendere, to stretch towards.
Yes.
So that's always away from itself, so to say. Because in its core, it's awareness arising as attention, pretending to be separate. And so the final discovery, of course, is there's only aware being. But it plays at being King Lear, so it arises as attention, seemingly going away from itself to the objective experience.
Yes.
So when it wants to know itself, it has to stop doing that.
Yes. Yes.
That's another way of saying it.
Yes. And the operative word that you just used
Yeah.
is seemingly.
Yes. Yes.
It seemingly directs
Yeah.
its attention away from its.
Yes. That's the play. That's the illusion, so to say.
Yes.
And I also like Byron Katie has one of these lines that I also always love. What appears to be and what doesn't until it does. And what I love about the first sentence, what appears to be is what seems to be, and also what appears to be. So anything that appears is just to be, and it already is. I love these words.
Yes, I know. They're awesome. Well, we have run out of time today, everyone. Thank you for joining with us. I apologize for the scheduling conflict I have with the Teachers of God team, but they have a live broadcast that's going to start in a few minutes, and we're going to get off the air so that they can go. And thank you all for your email questions, and thank you for your comments on the chat board. It's been very nice to participate with all of you this way. Thank you, lovely Anneke, for being our co-host today. It was awesome having you again.
Thank you.
And I look forward. I'll see you all next week. And Hillary will be our co-host next week. We're looking forward to having you with us, Hillary, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.